So we're going to split up this chapter 5. There's a lot of different concepts in this. So we're going to just take this one piece at a time, and the first lesson the first section we're going to look at is called factoring polynomials. You actually did this in Algebra 1, and so hopefully a lot of this will be review. Factoring gets tricky because there's so many different types of factoring. So we're going to do one at a time and then go from there. So you're going to be given a 3-term problem on this lesson, or this section of the lesson, and it's going to be, it's called a trinomial, which means it has 3 terms. It's going to have an x squared term, it's going to have an x term, and then it's going to have a no x term. So step 1 you need to do is you need to make sure that those terms, it's called the descending order of variables. And this word descending means to go down. And that just means that my variables are going from the biggest to the smallest. So x squared, x, no x. And I normally tell my kids, look for that pattern. X squared, x, no x. It's a little bit easier to remember than descending order of variables. So look for the x squared, x, no x. This is already in that form, so I can move on. And what you need to do is you need to find the factors. Now there's a lot of words here. Find factors of the coefficient of the non-x term. That just means this last term, what can I multiply to get that number? I need the factors of that. I'm going to end up needing to find 2 numbers that when added together equal the number with the x, but the same set that when multiplied equal the number with no x. And you always, always, always want to start with the multiplication. I can add any number to any number, decimal, fraction, any of them, to get to addition. Multiplication, though, there's only so many whole numbers I can use. So start by finding my factors of my non-x term. In this case, it's a 12. I can multiply 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. My third step then is to look at those sets and find which one of those sets, when added together, will get me to the x term, to the 7 in this case. Well, 1 plus 12 is 13, so that's out, because that's not 7. 2 plus 6 is 8, so that's out. 3 plus 4 is 7. So when I add them, I get 7. When I multiply them, I get 12. So 3 and 4 are the numbers I'm going to work with. And when I write that answer out, I simply put x plus 3, x plus 4. And hopefully now that you've seen that, you kind of remember at least a little bit from doing it last year. We'll see. Let's look at this one. So it's x squared plus 8x plus 12. So step 1, is it in the right form? Is it in the right order? Descending order of variables. X squared, x, no x. And I'm there. And now we find factors of the non-x term. So factors of the non-x term, and it's 12 again, same numbers. But I now need to find those numbers that when added together get me here. Remember, it's added, multiplied. Well, 1 plus 12 is 13, not 8. 2 plus 6 is 8. 2 times 6 equals 12. So then my answer is 2 plus 6, not 2 plus 6, that's not right. X plus 6 and x plus 2. All right, let's look at this one. Negative x minus 6 plus x squared. And instantly I can see there's an issue. The first thing I have to do is put it in descending order of variables. X squared, x, no x. And the only thing that you really need to pay attention here is whatever sign is in front has to stay with that term. Okay, so whatever sign is in front has to stay with that term. So that minus has to stay with the 6. The minus has to stay with the x. So when I rearrange it, those signs stay with the term. So x squared minus x minus 6. Now I go into my, what can I multiply together to get to negative 6? And I don't have this typed out, so here's the thing we have to pay attention to. Negatives and positives. So if I want to get to negative 6, I can multiply 1 times negative 6. I can also multiply 1. Let me do those with dots, not our parentheses, not x's. I don't like that. So I could do 1 times negative 6. I could do negative 1 times 6. I could do 2 times negative 3. I could do negative 2 times 3. So when you're dealing with negatives, make sure you include all those. Now, you may not need to list all those pairs out. I've done it so long that even as visual as I am, I don't always have to do that, and that's fine. Some students need to write every single pair out so they can see it. Whatever works for you is fine. So now I have to look at those pairs and see which one, when added together, get me. Now this is a little weird. There's no number there. But if we sort of reach back into our Algebra 1 brain, and we remember that every term has an understood 1. So which one of those pairs, when added together, is going to get me to negative 1? Well, 1 plus negative 6 is negative 5. Negative 1 plus 6 is 5. Those are out. 2 plus negative 3, negative 1. Negative 2 plus 3 is positive 1. So this is the set that I'm going to need. When multiplied together, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. When added together, it's negative 1. So my answer is x minus 3, x plus 2. Now, the truth is, I could have written this like this. Oops. Well, I couldn't have written it like that. That's wrong. Sure doesn't matter. What matters, positive 2, positive 2, negative 3, negative 3. So I can write those sets of parentheses in whatever order I want as long as they have the right signs. Okay? All right, let's look at one more. I have x squared minus 8 minus 2x. Step it in the correct order. X squared, x, no x. Remember, keep that sign with the terms as I move them around. So when I put them in the right order, I have x squared minus 2x minus 8. Now I'm going to start with my factors of negative 8. What can I multiply together to get negative 8? Well, I can do 1 times negative 8. I can do negative 1 times positive 8. I can do 2 times negative 4. I could do negative 2 times 4. And that is all I can multiply together to get 8, or negative 8. Now I need to figure out which set when added will get me to negative 2. Well, here's the thing. I can never use 1 and 8 and get to 2. However, I can manipulate 2 and 4 to get to 2. And if I want my answer to be negative, then my 4 has to be negative. Now, if you're slower at that, that's fine, and you're welcome to use a calculator and sort of trial by error. It's totally fine. So I need to have a positive 2 and a negative 4. So x minus 4, x plus 2. And again, I could have written it like this, as long as I have a positive 2 and a negative 4. Here's how I want to do homework this week. Number one, we're not going to do everything that's in this lesson. Some of it's just too much, and we don't necessarily need it. So we're going to kind of start picking and choosing the most important pieces out of this textbook. But I really want to kind of give you some time to focus on each component before we put it all together. So here are 6 trinomial factoring problems. And what I would like for you to do is just take a screenshot of this or pause this video and write these 6 problems down. And I would like for you to work them, and then just shoot me a picture, text me a picture of your work or just your answers. If you have work to show, if you'll send that to me also. But some students can do a lot of this in their head because they know their multiplication tables or whatever. So what I would like to do, instead of assigning a worksheet first, is I would like to have you work through these 6. Send me a picture of your work, and then I'll send you the next video. I'm only partway through getting this together, but I think we're probably going to have like 4, maybe 5 videos this week. There's a lot of concepts in here, and it may not even be that much. As I'm working through this, I may decide to take some pieces pieces out that just maybe are not as important as other pieces as we go. Okay, so there's that. Work these 6 problems. Remember, put them in descending order of variables. And then your factors of the non-x term that added together will equal the x term.